All right, welcome. Today I'm joined by Ryan Volcansek, System Administrator for the Valmark Financial Group. And Ryan has done a ton of research on the 2023 desktop setup. And I think Ryan's done a great job, and we're going to feature what we think is the ideal desktop setup for someone working in financial services. So Ryan, thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Jeff.
I know we've got a bunch of different tech here, and we're going to take a few minutes. And if somebody wants to just copy and paste, I'm going to put in the description just the equipment we use, but if you want to learn a little bit more, follow along, and Ryan's going to explain all of this different tech to us. So I guess to get started, Ryan, we're going to kind of work our way left to right. Probably the most important piece of equipment is your computer itself. So we went with a Dell system. So tell us a little bit about this Dell, some of the research you did, and why you picked this specific unit.
So this here is a Dell Latitude 5531. Key point there is the Latitude line. Dell has many lines, Inspiron, XPS, whereas Inspiron's more for like home use, XPS is for creators. Latitude is a business-focused line, which gets you, you can see right here, it's not fancy, it's not stylish, but it looks the part, it's business, right? All business. Some of the things I like about this laptop is that it's thick, right?
Okay.
And you might not think that that's a plus.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people think heavy is bad, light is good. So why is a little bit heavier, or why did you decide with your testing and working with different people that a heavier laptop was better?
So yeah, I mean, I know generally a lot of people are looking for the lightest thing possible, right? When you go out and buy a laptop, a lot of the things that people are looking for is your like traditional MacBook Air. It's featherweight, that's what everyone wants, right? But the important thing, especially when you're looking at Windows laptops, is the performance, right? That's really important, especially when you're a business and you're going to keep it for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're only carrying it for a short period usually,
yeah.
Or it's in a bag or a backpack, so not that bad. It's sitting on your desk.
Yeah, so what we found in our testing is that a lot of our users complain, hey, these thin laptops that we had before are slow. They don't necessarily associate thin with slow, but the reality of it is with computers, physics do apply. And the more performance, the more heat, the more cooling that you need to keep it under control. And when you want something that's going to perform well for years, you need something that's a little bit more beefy. For example, this laptop has 2 fans in it. It's got a pretty chunky heat sink in there. Most laptops have a copper heat sink that soaks up the heat, the fans exhaust it. Our old laptops had a much smaller heat sink and only 1 fan. And that leads to lower performance. Like this laptop here, the CPU can actually run up to 45 watts, which is, not the highest.
Yeah.
But, some thin and light laptops, you might be looking at 10 or 15 watts.
And so does this also affect just lifetime or lifespan of the device as well? Do you start to see more problems? Maybe not day 1 or day 2 when you're testing, but years 2, 3, possibly 4.
For sure. I mean, one of the things I always say is you should figure out what type of performance you need, and you should buy a little bit more than that, right? If you're buying a thin and light laptop, a lot of times people will say, oh, but like the 15-watt processor with only 2 or 4 cores, oh, that's all you need, right? That's all you need. That gets the job done. Well, sure, yeah, it might get the job done today, but when you're a business and you're thinking, we're investing in these computers for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, yeah. It's not just what gets the job done today, it's what gets the job done tomorrow, yeah. And gets you a little bit of headroom. So buying a little bit of extra performance today really helps keep the longevity of the device.
Okay, so I think one of the things that was surprising about this device, it's a little bit bigger, and they did something different on the keyboard layout of this device. Tell me a little bit about the 10 key.
Yeah, so another thing that you get with a bigger laptop is, bigger keyboard, right? You have more space on the deck. So you can not only have a larger trackpad, but you can also have a larger keyboard. What a larger keyboard can mean is that you get a 10 key. A lot of people like that, especially in financial services where we are. We've got a lot of feedback on these. Hey, Ryan, I really love that this has a 10 key on it.
I don't care about the processing power, I don't care about the speed. Give me the 10 key.
Give me the 10 key. A lot of people love the 10 key. Yeah. So with a big laptop, not only do you get the processing power, yeah. You may get a 10 key. And when you've got people who are numbers people, yeah. That's what they like. Now, necessarily, I don't need a 10 key,
Yeah.
but a lot of people in financial services do.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we thought about.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I got the laptop, a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, more functionality, going a little bit longer, also has the 10 key, which everyone loves. Let's talk about the dock. Now, hold on here. Now, traditionally, when I think of a dock, I think of something like this. Like, it's a proprietary dock. This is a Lenovo. It's got a bunch of ports on the back, and what it's kind of hard to see. We'll get a close-up here. You actually decided it's time to switch to a smaller footprint for our dock and something that is not proprietary. And I know you tested out a lot of different models, and again, you came back to the Dell model as the docking station. Tell us a little bit about this dock and why you selected it.
Well, I think docks are one of the biggest challenges that you face with a laptop setup at work. In my experience, docks are the most likely thing to cause instability, cause issues on the desktop. So it's something that was a huge focus for us. That Lenovo dock, one of the biggest things I didn't like about it was that it was proprietary, like you said. It only worked with certain models of Lenovo's ThinkPads specifically. So we were limited in what we could buy every year. Once we invested in those docks, we were locked in with Lenovo until we were ready to replace the docks, which we were finally ready to do. Yeah. And we wanted to move towards something that was a little smaller, not proprietary, so we could pivot to, you know, say Dell laptops. We're done with those after a few years. Yeah. We're going to get HPs now. Yeah. We might not need to replace the docks because they're universal. Yeah. Or we still have some ThinkPads. We haven't fully replaced everything with Dells yet. Yeah. Our ThinkPads can work with these docks because they're universal. Yeah. But this dock specifically, I mean, we went through a lot of docks.
Because there's a lot of universal docks, right?
Yes,
if you walk through
there are a lot.
Amazon or Best Buy, you will just see, you'll be inundated with how many different universal docks are available.
Yes. And, you know, there's degrees of universality, right? Okay. Universal doesn't always mean universal, right?
The marketing says it does.
Yeah. So, you know, some of the stuff you might have run into is what's called Thunderbolt docks. Thunderbolt is a proprietary Intel technology that basically uses PCI Express lanes direct to the CPU to connect. It's not running over actual USB, it's running over PCI Express, which I won't get into the nitty-gritty of that for this. But we actually tested some Thunderbolt docks, and they do work well when they work well. But we ran into some issues with the universality of it. Like, for example, there are different standards of Thunderbolt, right? The two most recent are Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4. Okay. We were using Thunderbolt 4 docks. They worked great on our new Thunderbolt 4 laptops. Yeah. But if we're using it on a Thunderbolt 3 laptop, they're advertised to be basically compatible, but there's just some weird issues. Yeah. Where you might have display flickering, just random stuff that in theory, on paper, shouldn't happen, but it does happen. Yeah. So
one of the things I love about what you did was the details matter. Mm-hmm. So one, you looked at the details, and two, you did some actual testing. Because it's one thing to read about it, you can read reviews and get a sense of it, but until you actually put it in your environment and test it out, you just don't know. So you ran it through the paces, not only with yourself and the team, but actual other users to get what their feedback was.
Yep. Yeah. So moving away from the Thunderbolt, obviously that did not work out for what we were looking for. Yeah. This dock is a USB-C dock. It runs over USB-C, and one of the things about it that kind of makes it different is the technology called DisplayLink. DisplayLink basically emulates display in software. Your CPU cycles are what's running the display, not an actual graphics accelerator like a GPU that you typically have. DisplayLink is kind of frowned upon by some people because it actually uses CPU power, can slow down your system. Yeah. But that's another reason why you buy a higher performance laptop. Then you can run something with DisplayLink and not have as many issues. And it's highly compatible, actually very universal, and it works very well in our setup at least.
Nice. Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the next. We're going to do the peripherals, but next up is the monitors. Now, if you look at what we're doing here, we've got two monitors. You know, I've been in computers and financial services for a while. So when I started, we had one monitor, and then we moved to two, and that was kind of a big deal as prices started to come down. And then people started using three, and I think three was kind of where a lot of people settled in with how many monitors they want. Now, today, we're actually starting to go back and go back to 2. My initial reaction is that we're going backwards. Tell me why you think going back to 2 makes sense versus 3, and how has the technology changed?
Well, I think the big thing about it is there's 2 factors, size and resolution.
Okay.
Right? So before we had 3 monitors, they were 24 inches,
yeah.
and they were 1080p.
Okay.
So 1080p means 1920 by 1080.
Okay, so that's just how many pixels?
How many pixels are on the screen?
Yep.
If you multiply those 2 numbers together, it'll come out to, I don't know what it is
yeah.
off the top of my head, I'm not a math guy.
Yeah, that's why you're in computers.
Yes, that's why I'm in computers.
Computers do it for us, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So 1920 by 1080, that's a number of pixels, that's a set number of pixels. You have 3 of those, multiply that number by 3,
okay.
That's your total number of pixels.
Gotcha.
These are 4K, which is 3840 by 2160.
Okay.
Which is, if you think about it, again, not a math guy,
yeah.
It's a much higher number
yeah.
when you're multiplying.
Okay.
So you get 2 of those,
yeah.
multiplied,
yeah.
and added,
yep.
versus 3 1080p.
Yep.
You have, I can't give you the exact numbers,
yeah.
but you have, in order of magnitude, more pixels.
Yeah, so it's
okay?
This is like a puzzle we're unpacking here, because your intuitive sense is that 3 is better, 3 is more, but really when you get into the specifics of the pixel density and resolution, you're actually getting more real estate, more visible real estate with the 2 newer monitors, larger size than 3.
Yes, exactly. And I know it sounds counterintuitive,
yeah.
but more pixels is more pixels.
Yeah.
And some people have come to me and said, "Hey, but I like the ease of splitting things up
yeah.
onto 3 different screens."
Yeah.
And my counter to that is, well, you can use something like Fancy Zones,
yeah.
Which is maybe Jeff, you could link that. In
I've talked a little bit about it. You've taught me about it. Windows
yep.
11 has taught me about it. There's some new ways to lay out your screens a little bit better if
yep.
you do like snapping your screens. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can lay out. Everyone probably knows that you can snap like 2 things next to each other on a window, but Fancy Zones actually lets you design exactly where you want your snap points to be.
Yeah.
And you could maybe divide this screen into 3 columns. Or you could divide it into top bottom. Like I know that's what Keith does on our team.
Yeah. I think as an experiment, I created like 13 zones just to see what I could do, and you can go crazy.
Yep. So I think that's an advantage. You can use something like Fancy Zones, and you're actually getting, because of the pixel density and whatnot, you're getting more usable real estate, taking up actually a little bit less real estate, physical real estate on your desk, which is a big plus for me.
All right, so when we're talking about monitors, the other thing you showed me is that these monitors will actually pivot and tilt, which is kind of a new cool kid way of looking at your monitor. So you can see here, I've tilted it sideways. Explain to me why I might want to use this as opposed to side by side.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first did this at work, nobody else had done it before, and people kind of looked at me funny, like, what are you doing? Like, you're just trying to be quirky or different, like, what is this? Yeah. So there actually is a reason for it, right? You can see here, this is my favorite example, Word document. You see right here, most of your Word documents are going to be portrait view, right? So you've got a lot of wasted blank space over here on the left side, on the right side. Mm-hmm. But if you take it over here, bear with me, maximize it here, you lose significantly less space on the sides. You can zoom in like this, and then you've got a whole page on your screen taking up an actual good amount of your screen.
Yeah, so I think this is really cool for working in, whether you're writing code, anything that has a lot of top to bottom, so writing code, dealing with financial account forms, or if you work in life insurance, a lot of underwriting documents or medical documents, you're reading through a lot of different pages. Yeah. Also good for maybe an attorney.
Yeah, anything that's, the way I like to put it is anything that's primarily text-based is, I find, better on a portrait monitor. Landscape, obviously suited to media consumption. You're watching YouTube videos, you're editing videos, anything media related, of course, landscape is going to be king. Yeah. Portrait, text-based is awesome. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I would mention is they, aside from just tilting too, they are height adjustable. Yeah. Some of our old monitors were not. Something I'd always recommend looking for in a monitor is a good stand, one that has adjustments, whether it be pivot, tilt, height. That's something that you want, because when you're looking at your monitor, ideally, ergonomically, when you're looking at it, the top of your eyes should be facing up against the top of the screen. And some of the ones that aren't height adjustable, that's just not possible. So, something to think about.
Cool. All right, let's move on to peripherals. So we're going to talk about keyboard, mouse, cameras, and headphones. Let's start with the keyboard first. Tell us Tell us a little bit about just this keyboard. It looks pretty basic to me.
Yep, it's very basic, but that's one of its strengths.
Okay.
This is a Logitech MK540. I also like the MK545. It comes in a combo with the mouse. That's where you get the MK from, mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
So anything you see from Logitech that's MK means it's going to be mouse and keyboard. The nice thing about this, actually the best thing about it, is the unifying receiver. Maybe we can get a close-up of this later, but it's sitting right here. It's got a little logo on it so you can see exactly what it is. But the unifying receiver is compatible with anything that Logitech makes that is unifying, which is a large amount of peripherals. The reason why that's advantageous for us is because people will break their mouse, they'll break their keyboard, they'll lose their mouse. You know, any number of things can happen. They'll lose their dongle even. That's very common.
Yeah.
And
especially with work from home.
Yeah. When you're transporting a mouse, say, back and forth in a bag, you know, we've had many lost receivers. And when you have unifying, there's a piece of software you can open up called the Logitech Unifying Software, and we can actually just repair an existing keyboard, mouse, dongle with, you know, any combination of those things. Just repair them and make them a new system. Whereas if you have something that's not unifying, like some of Logitech's cheaper models, you lose the dongle, it's done. That's it.
Yeah.
This whole set goes in the trash.
And I will say, I do feel like, as the person in charge of budgeting, this is actually a pretty economical keyboard mouse combination. So it's not really high end. It's like, I like to use the analogy of the Honda Accord, right? It's like it gets the job done. It's super reliable. It's not going to break the bank.
Yep, it's extremely reliable. I've never seen one of these break, you know, other than from like somebody just spilling something on it. But like naturally, these things, they don't break. They're highly reliable. It's not like the most fancy keyboard in the world. Like, you know, I'm a mechanical keyboard guy. This is not that, but it gets the job done. It's economical.
Cool. All right. All right, so let's move on to camera. Now, I've made a lot of videos about cameras. I probably kind of push the envelope trying different things. But I think for the average person, you need to make it pretty simple, right? If we're talking about a device that we're going to roll out across the whole enterprise, we need it to be standard, right? I can't have everybody trying a bunch of different things. So we've really come up with two that we really like. So why don't you talk us through each of these and why, I know I love standard, so why do we have two? And kind of what's the primary, what's the secondary?
So we have two for a very specific reason, and it's because we need one that's just your standard camera that you're going to give to everyone by default, right? And you also need a camera for maybe somebody who's on video calls all the time. They're client-facing. Maybe they're recruiting member firms. They're talking to clients. They want to look good. We want to look our best, put our best foot forward, right? So we have two cameras. The first one on the right, the silver one, is the Microsoft LifeCam. That's our standard camera. We've done a lot of testing. Logitech C920 is a big one. We tried the Razer Kio with the built-in ring light and the LifeCam, among many others. Of all those like kind of basic standard cameras, we think the LifeCam looks the best. Decent resolution, 1080p.
It's small, it's lightweight, it's portable, it's affordable. We've run it for years. We just wanted to challenge ourselves to see, is there something else we would like instead as part of this next refresh? And the answer came back, LifeCam's solid.
LifeCam is solid.
Yeah.
Facecam.
Back to the Honda Accord analogy, right? It's affordable, it gets the job done, LifeCam. It's my daily driver, even though I like testing all these different cameras, I still often resort back to the LifeCam just because it's easy.
It gets the job done, and it's good, and it's cheap, it's portable. But now you can see our other one, the Facecam, Elgato Facecam. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit less portable. We actually nicknamed it Wall-E. If you've ever seen that movie, it looks like Wall-E. And if the LifeCam is your Honda Accord, then maybe the Facecam is like your Audi A4 or your BMW 3 Series, something like that. As you can see, it's got a much larger sensor on it. Larger sensor means it takes in more light. It still shoots in 1080p, but it can do 60 FPS, which is nice. And it just, if you look at it next to other webcams, it looks head and shoulders better as long as you have the right lighting. Lighting is always king. The Facecam can't save you from terrible lighting.
Yeah, I've noticed that even with the live cam, if I turn on my lights and I have a little bit brighter, the image quality goes up substantially.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you compare both of them in good lighting,
Yeah.
face cam is going to come out on top. It's got the most natural colors,
Yeah.
whereas the live cam might be a little bit oversaturated, give you the sunburn look.
Yeah.
Face cam doesn't do that. It's the best webcam we've found in terms of image quality.
All right, so the last piece we're going to talk about today is the headset. And kind of in the era of work for home, Zoom meetings, a headset is critical. And I feel like we've kind of stumbled through this a little bit. I've done some videos on some software like Crisp that help kind of minimize background noise. But still working in cubes and other environments as people are going back and forth, it is difficult, I think, to get it right. So we've come up with a couple options that we feel pretty good about now. So I think we really kind of, even though we like standards, we've come up with two that we really like. Maybe talk us through each of these and why you think each is a good solution.
Well, yeah, like you said, headsets has been a huge challenge for us.
Yeah.
If I said before, docks has been our biggest challenge.
Yeah.
If docks is 1A, headsets 1B.
Okay.
Like, that's been a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So with that, we've gone through a ton. We've come up with Jabra. Jabra is a brand that makes primarily headsets focused in business.
Yeah.
And we like them because, like we said before, the unifying receiver, they have their own dongle. They can be paired with any. If you lose one, it can be repaired, all of that stuff.
So even though we're having different devices, by having the same brand, it helps with some of that.
We're still standardized.
Still standardized, still makes it easy. Same software, same little dongle.
Yep, exactly. And once we settled on Jabra, we found a couple different models that we like in their lineup. First one here is the Evolve 65E. This one is more of your traditional earbud style headset, which a lot of people like because it doesn't go over their head, it doesn't mess up their hair, and they can just put it on.
This is what I've used for years.
Yep. Yeah, got to keep the hair nice. That's important. It's important when you want to look good. I get it. So this is a good solution for that. The drawback of this, though,
what's the drawback?
There is a catch to this. It doesn't have everything. It's that the microphone doesn't get quite as close to your mouth, and it's a lot smaller, and it picks up a lot more because it has to be a little more boosted because it's a little further away.
Yeah. So I work in an office, so it's not a problem for me.
Yep.
I don't get it, but if I'm working in an environment where I've maybe got a neighbor or somebody next to me, it starts to become pretty problematic.
Yep. For example, my team. All of us, Jim, our manager, he is known for being very loud. And we sit all in a room together, and at one time, Jim and I and the rest of us all had these headsets.
Okay.
Right? And Jim, being the loud talker that he is, sometimes people would say on the phone they could hear Jim louder than they could hear me.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, like this isn't working.
There's no bueno.
Like this is no bueno. We need to revamp. This is done.
So you rethought it.
Yep.
Rethought it. So we kind of have two different models. One is one ear and two.
Yep. So these are kind of the same headset. Well, they are the same headset. They're just the mono version and the stereo version, mono being one, stereo two. These are the Jabra Evolve 2 65, I believe is the name. Jeff can correct that.
Okay. I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, put it in the description. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've got the stereo and the mono version. But the cool thing about these is they have the actual boom arm mic that gets, if I put this on, gets right in front of your mouth, right in front of your mouth. It picks you up very clearly, and it kind of helps block out some of those other people.
Yeah.
You can see here it's very hard to see, but it's actually got a microphone on the other side too.
Okay.
What these headsets do is they try to pick up not only your voice, but also other noises around you, and block that out, and knows what it's picking up from you versus what it's picking up.
So it's got some built-in noise canceling into the device itself.
Yep. Yeah. So we found that this is a great combination with Crisp, like you were saying, because no one solution gets the entire noise canceling job done. It is a very difficult problem to solve.
Yeah.
But if you use something with a good noise canceling mic, as well as some software that can do that too, we found that it really helps neutralize some of those issues.
Awesome. All right, so Ryan, thank you for spending some time with us today and explaining what we think is the new 2023 modern desktop setup for someone working in financial services. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, great. Whew.